is socialism? Socialism is a form of government in which most forms of the property, including at least the major means of production and natural resources, are owned or controlled by the state. The aim of public ownership is to ensure that the production is responsive to the needs and desires of the general population, and that goods and services are distributed equitably. So, sa madaling salita, yung socialism is when a population collectively owns and controls the means of production and distributes the end result proportionally para masatisfy yung needs ng mga tao in terms of housing, healthcare, and sa education. Ang purpose nitong socialism is para mag-guarantee na matanggal na yung level of field sa member ng society. Tinatanggal nito yung mga class distinction based on ownership. Halimbawa na lang dati, dito sa Pilipinas, hindi ka makakapag-aral ng college kung wala kang pera, kung hindi kayo mayaman, kung hindi ka magtatrabaho, mag-working student ka. Kaso dati, kahit mag-working student ka pa, mahirap pa rin kasi masyadong malaki yung tuition fee kahit sa state colleges, kahit hindi ka mag-private school, malaki pa rin yung tuition fee. So, hindi ma-afford ng mga tao dati. Unlike ngayon, na meron ng free tuition, lalo na sa mga state colleges, pag scholar ka pa, lalo ka pang makakapag-aral kasi bukod din sa free tuition, magkakaroon ka pa ng extra pera para dun sa mga babayarin mo sa school. Kaya ngayon, kung gusto mo talagang mag-aral, makakapag-aral ka na kahit hindi kayo mayaman. So, how does socialism emerge? Nag-emerge yung socialism in 360 BC. So, Plato depicted types of collective society in his dialogue dun sa Republic. Kung alam niyo yung book niya na Republic, dun yung nakalagay. Tapos, noong 16th century naman, si Thomas More, nag-drawing siya ng Platonic ideals nun sa kanyang Utopia. Tapos yung Utopia pala, i-discuss mamaya yung pag-meet. In the late 18th century naman, na-invent yung steam engine which powered the Industrial Revolution, which brought sweeping economic and social change first to Great Britain and to the rest of the world. Kung hindi niyo alam yung Industrial Revolution, ito yung time when the agricultural societies became more urban or more industrialized, na gumagamit din sila ng machines, which eto na nga yung nangyayari sa ngayon. Yung mga factory owners, sila yung patuloy na yumayaman, at yung mga factory workers naman, sila yung mga nagpapakahirap, sila yung minsan nalalagay na sa alanganin yung buhay nila, pero yung bayad sa kanila is hindi enough, o hindi sila katumbas nung mga hirap na ginagawa nila kasi nasa minimum wage lang sila or minsan mas mababa pa. Yung socialism kasi parang ito yung naging sagot nila dun sa nangyayari na Industrial Revolution, which is yung mga mayaman nga, lalo pang yung mayaman, at yung mga mahirap, lalo pa silang hinihirap. Kaya isip nila yung socialism para matigil na yung capitalist system. Parang yung socialism daw yung magiging alternative para maging maayos na yung working class at para magkaroon na egalitarian society. So, what is egalitarian society? Parang sino egalitarian society sa pagkakaintindi ko, siya yung magbibigay ng justice or equality sa ating lahat. Kumbaga, kasi nga, public ownership na yung means of production, tapos yung mga supply, magiging proportion na yung pagbibigay sa mga tao, unlike dun nga sa mga industrial society na kung sino lang yung mayaman, doon lang sila nakafocus. Kasi kung mahirap ka, wala kang say sa society kasi wala ka namang wala kang pagmamay-ari, ganun.
So I'm Bernadette Collado and I will be discussing utopian socialism. So utopian socialism was one of the earliest variants of socialism, though nagmula talaga siya sa mga philosophers and economists noong late 18th century and early 19th century, who opposed the misery created by rapid industrialization and capitalism, leading thinkers of utopian socialists. So, isa sa mga pioneer or kauna-una ng utopian socialist was the French aristocrat na sina Claude Henry de Saint-Simon, Robert Owen, and Charles Fourier. They offered up their own models for social organization based on cooperation rather than competition. So si Saint Simon did not call for public ownership of productive property, but he did advocate public control of property through central planning, in which scientists, industrialists, and engineers would anticipate social needs and direct the energies of society to meet them. And also, Saint Simon argued for a system where the state controls production and distribution for the benefit of all societies. Members, both Fourier and Owen, proposed system based on small collective communities, not a centralized state. So yung utopian socialism kasi is aiming na magkaroon ng economic and social equality ang isang bansa para for the creation of a better society through gradual reform rather than revolution. So ang idea kasi nila Saint Simon at ng iba pa is magkaroon ng utopian society, ng perfect society through gradual reform rather than revolution. So, next is influence of Karl Marx. So, si Karl Marx, most influential theorist of socialism, who called Owen, Fourier, and other socialist thinkers na utopians. Pero kasi si Karl Marx, di siya naniniwala na may utopian society, na mayroong perfect society, and dismissed their vision as a dreamy and unrealistic. So, para kay Karl Marx, hindi totoo yung utopian society. Hindi siya realistic. For Marx, society was made up of classes, which is the bourgeoisie, or also known as capitalist, and proletarian, which is yung mga laborer. In their 1848 work, The Communist Manifesto, Marx and his collaborator Friedrich Engels argued that true scientific socialism could be established only after a revolutionary class struggle, with the workers emerging on top. So, ang idea naman ni Karl Marx, hindi kailangan talaga ng revolution, hindi gradual reform para magkaroon ng socialism, democracy ang isang bansa.
My name is John Ralph Igao from BAPS 32. Now let's talk about the socialist countries and the socialism in 20th century. In the 20th century, particularly after the Russian Revolution of 1917 and the formation of the Soviet Union, social democracy and communism emerged as the two most dominant socialist movements throughout the world. Siguro kaya sinabi na most dominant yung social democracy and communism kasi parang mas pinaboran to ng marami kasi sobrang benefited sila dito. Tulad nung, kunyari magtatrabaho sila. Sinasahuran sila base sa kakayanin nila at saka sa pangangailangan nila. Siyempre, maraming tao yung pabor doon. Yun. By the end of the 1920s, Lenin Revolution focused view of socialism had given way to the foundation of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and its consolidation of absolute power under Joseph Stalin. Parang nag-focus dun yung Lenin's Revolution na patatagin lalo. O paano ba? Yung parang mas maging matibay yung foundation ng Communist Party. Tsaka para rin din sa absolute power. Nung habang si Joseph Stalin yung namumuno doon sa Soviet Union. Ganun. Si Joseph Stalin, isa siyang Georgian revolutionary. Tsaka isa siyang politician. Parang namuno siya simula nung 1920 hanggang mamatay siya noong 1953. With the collapse of this regime in the late 1980s and the ultimate fallout of the Soviet Union itself in 1991, communism as a global political force was greatly diminished. Only China, Cuba, North Korea, Laos, and Vietnam remain communist states. Yun, nung sinabi nung wala na, parang bumagsak na talaga tong Soviet Union. Natira lang yung China, Cuba, North Korea, Laos. Sila lang yung hanggang ngayon nasunod sa pagiging socialist country, ganun. Meanwhile, over the course of the 20th century, social democracy parties won support in many European countries by pursuing more centrist ideology. Their ideas called for a gradual pursuit of social reforms through the processes of democratic government within a largely capitalist system. Tapos yung socialist countries, kabilang dito yung Asia, Oceania, Europe, America, Africa. Sabi dito, socialist countries are states that have aligned themselves with socialism. Sinabi din na parang masabi mong socialist country, yung isang bansa, wala. Kailangan lang nilang i-declare o i-claim yung sarili nila na bilang socialist country. Walang official process, walang criteria para masabi mong socialist state yun. Yun nga lang daw yung tangang kailangan. Basta i-claim nyo sa sarili nyo na socialist country kayo. This includes nations that claim to be socialist or have constitution that state that they are based on socialism, even if they do not follow the economic or political system associated with socialism. Ayun nga. Tapos, yun, yung tulad ng sinabi ko kanina, socialist countries, current states that follows the Marxist and Leninist principles include the Laos People Democratic Republic, the People's Republic of China, the Republic of Cuba, and the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Yun sila na lang yung nasunod ngayon dito sa Marxist and Leninist. Tossing Marxist and Leninist, yung Marxist parang way ng pagsuri, ganun, sa socio-economic na parang gumagamit ng material na interpretation sa pag-unlad. Ng pangkasaysayan ba, ganun. Yung parang kilala na makasaysayang materialismo o historical materialism, ganun. Tapos yung Leninist naman kasi political ideology na binuo sa Russia. Russian to si kalimutan ko yung pangalan, Leninist. Yung Vladimir Lenin siya yun. Parang minumukha niya yung pagtatakad ng diktatorya. Tapos pinangunahan niya nung partido ng Vanguard, kung familiar rin. Parang kasing yung tungkulin ng Leninist Vanguard, bigyan ng yung manggagawa, yung mga workers dati ng kaalaman pagdating sa politika. Yun. Tapos, sabi, meron pa daw na bukod dun sa China, sa Laos, sa Cuba, sa Vietnam, eto sabi, former countries under the Marxist Lenin's idea of socialism included. Ito kasama tong mga bansa na to. Yung Afghanistan, Albania, Angola, Belarus, Benin, Bulgaria, Cambodia, Congo, Czechoslovakia, Ethiopia, East Germany, Hungary, North Korea, Mongolia, ano ba to? Mozambique, Poland, Romania, Somalia, Russia, Ukraine, North Vietnam, South Yemen, and Yugoslavia. Okay.
Let me discuss about the ideology of socialism in Africa. Socialism doctrine adopted by the several African leaders at the close of French and British colonial rule during 1950s and 1960s. So they have 35 African leaders adopted this concept of socialism. After adopted this social concept of socialism, they try to create a new hybrid version of socialism, deeper from the socialism concept of French and British country. After that, I will discuss the appeal of socialism. There have three types. First is the socialism was not anti-imperialism, or from the word itself, anti-imperialism, or they are not defined the military force. Instead, they want a freedom or independent country to negotiate with other country. Next is the socialism offer a way to break with Western market. From the word Western market, it's about the European empires who use the African national resources like mining corporation and European base as well. They use the national resources or national industry of the African to make para mas mag-grow pa yung pinaka-European empires. Then, after nilang makuha yung national resources, the African want to have a independence, pero ubos na yung national resources nila, kaya naging mas mahirap yung country ng Africa. Next, they embrace the principle of working with socialism trading parties. So, nagkaroon din ng trading parties within other countries like European and African. Kaya, gusto nilang tanggalin yung Western market. Next is one-party socialized state promise. Struggling to establish a sense of nationalism among the different groups that made their populations, socialism offered a rationale for limiting political opposition with the leaders. After noon is nagkaroon sila ng one-party socialism state promises na kung saan is magkakaroon ng independency ang isang bansa na Africa at magkaroon ng sariling government. Next is socialism in colonial Africa. Ayon kay Leopold Senghor, he drawn a socialism in decades before independence. So, naisip niya yung concept ng socialism na kung saan ito yung makakatulong sa pag-angat ng Africa. He read and proposed a new version, or siya din yung mga proponents or mga nagpakilala or nag-adapt ng concept ng socialism, and siya rin yung nagbigay ng idea kung paano bubuuin yung socialism and nag-edit nun, created a new version. Next is about the African socialism, different from European and Marxism. So, a while ago I said that it's different from the French and British colonial or socialism. Gumawa sila ng sarili nilang version para mas maging authentic yung pinaka-country nila or makilala. It was still essentially about trying to resolve social and economic equalities. This concept of socialism in Africa want to promote a social and economic inequalities. They want to remove that kind of stereotyping in a different concept, and they want peace and their own government. Next is both provided a justification strategy to managing the country through state control of market and distribution. So, they want a control of market or magkaroon ng control sa sarili nilang mga produkto or natural resources. Like what I'm saying a while ago, the European countries or the European empires use the natural resources of African to get a more pagkakilanlang. So, kaya naghirap yung African dahil sa ginawa nila. And also, they didn't want to bring foreign political or cultural ideas. They wanted to encourage and promote African social and political ideologies. Actually, gusto nila is ayaw nila mag-base sa foreign political and cultural ideas. So, instead that, mas gusto nilang mag-focus sila doon sa African social and political ideologies nila. Kasi, doon sila mas nakikilala and doon mas mapapatunayan yung pagkakakilala nila. After nun, socialism supported some traditional structure while proclaiming that they are social and always have been a classless. And lastly is the African varieties of socialism also permitted for more freedom of religion. The African socialism also want to promote a freedom on religion, giving a freedom to choose what your religion and what you want for. Then some of these African they want a freedom from all the conqueror country and have their own form of government and ideologies about economical, political, and cultural beliefs. That's all. Thank you.
Good day. Ako si Delor Del Caras. Mag-uulat tungkol sa ideology of socialism in America. Magbibigay lang sa inyo ng kaunting kaalaman tungkol sa socialism in America. Yan, 20th century. Dito pumasok yung mga kaganapan o pangyayari na hindi naman ginusto ng kahit na sino, tulad ng gera, ng mga sakit na kumalat, ng kahirapan, unang-una talaga ng kahirapan. Halos lahat naman ng bansa noon ay lubog dahil sa kahirapan sa mga pangyayaring mga nagaganap noon. Kaya titingnan natin kung nagtagumpay nga ba ang socialist system sa Amerika para makamit nila kung ano meron sila ngayon. Kung yun. In America, socialism influence has been relatively feeble. Ayun. Sinasabi nga dito na mahina ang impluensya ng socialism. Kumbaga, hindi nag-click ang socialism sa kanila. Next, socialism failure in America. Yon. Dito nga sinasabi na hindi talaga nagtagumpay ang socialism sa Amerika. Siguro dahil na rin sa mga pagsubok o mga pangyayaring dumating sa kanila noong panahon na yun. Hindi socialist system ang bagay para malampasan nila yung mga pangyayaring yun. Kumbaga para malampasan nila at umangat sila sa ibang bansa. Ito, meron statement dito na makatulong. American-style capitalism has resulted in enormous wealth creation. So yun nga, lumabas na capitalism yung pinaka naging way nila upang umangat sila, upang makita natin. Halos lahat naman ay tinitingala ang Amerika pagdating sa yaman, sa kapangyarihan dahil sila sa namumuno dito. So sila sa nagdidikta sa buong mundo. Sinasabing ng mga Americans na hindi talaga kayang i-sustain ng socialist system ang kanilang pangangailangan. Yan, kapag socialism, hindi talaga nila may sustain yung pangangailangan ng kanilang bansa. Kung kaya't ang capitalism na mas pabor sa kanila dahil ito ang naging dahilan ng kanilang pag-unlad. Yan. Sinabi nga dito na capitalism ang naging dahilan ng pag-unlad nila. Na ito yung parang nag-click sa kanila para umunlad. Ito, next. Americans are more concerned about acquiring private property than making sure it is equally distributed. Yan. Sa statement na ito, pumasok yung mas pinapahalagahan nila o mas tinitingala nila yung mga nagbi-business, mga entrepreneurs. Dahil nga dito, mas nakilala yung Americans sa ma kumbaga dito sila mas yumaman, dito sila naging makapangyarihan. Dito umangat yung kanilang bansa. Ito, just sa ano. Kaya po hindi talaga nagtagumpay ang socialism sa Amerika dahil sa pinagdaanan nilang hirap tulad ng mga war at pinili nila ang freedom kaysa equality. Yun, mas pinili nga nila yung kalayaan kaysa sa pagkakapantay-pantay na binibigay ng socialism na nagkos ng nagkos yung freedom, yung capitalism, nagkos ito na naging competitive yung Amerika para makasabay sa globalized market. Na sa ngayon, parang sila na yung nasa tuktok na tinitingala yung rating nila pagdating sa globalized market. Yun lamang po. Kaunti lamang po ang aking niambag dahil hindi naman po talaga nag-click ang socialism sa Amerika. Yun lamang po at maraming salamat.
So, good day, ma'am. I'm Alicia Inderes, and I am supposed to report to you the idea of socialism, or the concept of socialism in Asia. So, the concept of socialism is not 100% being practiced in Asia. Some of its countries combined it with the idea of nationalism. For instance, historically, the countries such as the Philippines, the Vietnam, India, and other countries are practicing this ideology with the touch of nationalism. Another concept that is being mixed with socialism in Asia is the ideology of communism. Countries such as China, Laos, and North Korea are the known states or countries that are practicing the idea of socialism or the ideology of socialism and mix it with communism. Lastly is the concept of capitalism. In Asia, we have this East Asian model where countries such as Korea, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, Taiwan associate their ideology of socialism with the touch of capitalism. Now let's move on to the socialist intellectuals in Asia. So in Asia, we have this Asian Socialist Conference, which has 177 delegates. So this is an organization of socialist political parties that existed between 1953 to 1965. This conference drafted a plan for the post-colonial state catered for the welfare of all, while protecting individual freedom, the press, and existence of political parties, which are the issues of that time. It upholds the United Nations Charter in protecting human rights and the rights of self-determination. So basically, the Asian socialist countries became the arena that fights the anti-colonial solidarity and campaigns for the end of the anti-exploitation, which is the phenomenal issue of that time. So Asian intellectuals continued to have this conference. So we have this two conference held in India. So this is the Rangoon and the Bombay conference. So the meeting adopted the resolutions on topic about peace settlements. since the the country Syria at that time is having sort of disputes in some of countries in Asia. Yet, as of 1961, the Asian Socialist Countries or Conference was no longer functioning. Some of its factors contributing was the suppression of the socialist parties such as the Burma, the Indonesia, and Nepal. So at that time, the socialist movement of India is also starting to weaken because of these disputes. So since the conference was held at both of these conference was held in India, like the Rangan and the Bombay conference. So the ASC was no longer functioning. Yet, as of 1970, the Asian Pacific Socialist Bureau was formed as a successor of Asian socialist countries. So although some of its goals, some of its focus is not as the same as the Asian Socialist Conference, yet still it stands in the fight for the rights and privileges of the socialist countries in Asia.